eventually, maybe very quickly, if you follow Jeremy's advice, you will find an awesome team member. My advice to you is to flat out ask them what they're looking for as an employer from you.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
And this is Jack from emailsthatsell.com.
Hey, what's up? We are going to pick up the conversation where we left it last time with Jack about how to hire an amazing virtual assistant. And I'll make sure I share all my last remaining secrets with you. So let's jump right back into the conversation. Enjoy.
Let's move forward. What else do we do?
Okay. Next step for me is making sure they're worthy of the interview. And so I have different tests depending on the role I'm hiring for. Most of the tests are like super short because it's not like a long assignment test. This is basically answering one type of question type of thing. If they answer it well, then we can move on. So an example specifically for support is to ask them to go to a certain website for typing speed and pasting me the results, making a screenshot and pasting me the results. Now, what's important is I do have text already that I can just copy paste. So I spend almost zero time on this process. Like I look, it's got koala, it's got the 9. Okay, it talks about why they want to join and not about them. Fine. I use Notion, which is, a super cool tool for putting all your notes and your SOP and every information. I really love it. And so I go to my page. It's one of my favorites. I click on it. So it literally takes no time. I copy the text and I paste it into the applicant's message system.
On Upwork.
On Upwork.
Right. And it says, here's the text. Go ahead and type this and tell me how long it takes. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Basically, my text is as this. Thanks for applying. Before moving forward, please go to the URL address where they have like a typing test and paste the screenshots of the results here in the chat. That's all I do.
Cool. All right, fair enough. That's easy. So you got to be able to type fast. I'm guessing typing speed is a critical component of whether or not you'd be a good hire, or at least a minor hurdle that some people won't be able to pass.
That's right. It's a filtering. And of course, some people will say like, yeah, but well, at the end of the day, if you type 30 words a minute, you're going to spend more time answering cases. Right. No matter what. So for me, it's a critical component of executing your job well.
What's the typing speed that you require?
50 words per minute minimum.
Okay. How many words per minute can you do?
Just about, depends. I can probably do around between 50 and 60. So I don't type that fast either. Okay. But the point is that I'm trying to hire people that are better than me anyway.
No, fair enough. I was just curious, like what the benchmark is, right?
So the benchmark is 50 because I can do 55 to 60s. And I think given the people I ask, work with in the past and so on, I think 50 is a good mark. But this is a difficult one because this is random words. That's why it's 55. So it's random words that you have. You can't really read the sentence as you're typing. It's really like different words. Mm-hmm. It's very, very difficult. Some people blew me away like 100 words. And I'm just like, really? How unbelievable.
I can't do 100, but I've hit 90 once. I'm a very fast typer.
Awesome.
Go me.
Maybe you got a chance at QuickMail.
Hell no. You'd lose me at the koala. All right, cool. So we do the typing test. Moving along.
Yes. And at some point, I'm going to receive a notification that I got a message. I'm going to check the message and you very quickly see on the screenshots whatever number it is. And again, I go back to my Notion page and there is if they fail and if they succeed. If they fail, I paste the text which says, I'm sorry, this is under our requirements. If you want to reapply at some point in the future, I recommend you use this to work on your typing speed. And I give them like a link, which is typingclub.com, which actually helps people to type faster. And I say, good luck.
That's nice. Okay, cool.
If they're above, then I put them to the second challenge. And this is the last challenge, but I put them to a second challenge, which is again, copy paste from me. And I will paste them a logical puzzle, which is basically a picture.
Yeah, and I've done this logic puzzle before, and I failed the logic test for the technical support manager.
That's true, you did actually.
Yeah, so this is not okay. Maybe some people find it very easy, but you've got to be very analytical, I suppose.
The funny thing is like this is not the point. The point of this exercise is not to find a solution. It's to how you're going to explain the logic of this solution that is important for me.
Okay, so two things. Being able to explain the logic is critical to be a good a technical support manager. Right. Now, for someone listening, interested in hiring a copywriter or maybe a web developer. Yes.
Do a math
maybe.
test.
I don't know. Like, what should we take from this? Because is this role specific or a good idea in general?
My tests are role specific.
Right.
Definitely, I got different tests for developer.
Right. Yeah, you would never ask a writer, someone to do personalization for cold email, by the way. You'd never ask them to fill out a series of math questions in order to get hired. That doesn't make sense.
That's right.
Right.
What is important or useful is to find a test where you can very quickly, without personal judgment, find if this is a pass or a fail, because then you can give this process to your team members. And you can say, you know what, just go through those people and, vet them according to this process. For me, it's simple. Less than 50 words per minute, boom, you're disqualified. You can find the answer on the puzzle, you're disqualified. That's the sort of thing that you're looking to get in a test.
Yeah. So if you were hiring a creative, let's say a writer, I would probably say, here's 2 examples of a cold email. Write me a 3rd example. And just to see how they structure it very quickly, is there a call to action? Is there an intro and something in the middle, right? I mean, can they follow stuff?
That would probably be hard because then it's a judgment call. Like, I'm reading it and I'm thinking like he did well or he didn't do well. That's more difficult.
Fair.
But
so imagine we're listening and we're saying, but Jeremy, I am hiring a cold email personalization person. Do you have any advice for me? What test should I give them?
I do. So I do have a test, for example, for developer. The test for developer is I give them a piece of code and I say, what can you tell me about this piece of code? And in my Notion page that actually highlight my process, I mention all the freaking points that this person could raise about this piece of code. And someone else on my team who doesn't know anything about code can simply check how many points that person actually finds or talk about. If they do, that's a certain number. You could do the same thing with personalization. Like, for example, you could say, like, make sure they talk about their golfing habit. Make sure they talk about their college stuff. So you could take like a picture of, LinkedIn page and say, write me 5 lines about personalization or five things at least to talk about on this page that you could use for personalization. Here's some example. Go ahead, find me 5 sentences. And then someone on your team can say, that's check. He talked about golfing. Checked. He talked about college. That's only 2 points. He couldn't find more. Then it's disqualified.
Got it.
Or he find 5. That's the sort of thing.
I like it. So it's basically a hybrid approach in between hiring someone flat out and hoping it works out.
Yes.
And then just asking them like basic interview questions. Tell me about yourself. It's in the middle. It's do a task in 5 minutes that I can quickly see if this is completely foreign to you or if you're going to be able to grab onto this task. Yeah, sweet.
Yes, are you worth my time? Because at this stage, you're not trying to fully assess this person, but you're trying to find like, does he have the bare minimum I'm expecting from someone to actually perform at this job?
I like it.
Cool. Then, assuming they answer the test and pass the test successfully, I give them a link to my Calendly.
Oh.
But there's a trick here.
The Calendly page is in Japanese, and they.
Well, if I was hiring a translator, then yes, maybe.
Good point.
But as part of Calendly, you can specify some questions people need to answer before moving forward. One of the things that I'm currently putting is a psychological test, Briggs-Myers test, because then I can see the type of person they are before I go on an interview with them, and I will know based on their type where the weakness supposedly is. And so I will spend more time on the interview based on those weaknesses to see if those are going to be the weakness that call them to fail because they won't be able to perform at their job, or explore some of their really key strengths.
Fair enough. So a lot of listeners don't know this, but I studied psychology in school, and I kind of don't put a lot of weight into these assessments because they can be gamed by people smart enough to game them. In your experience, it works, though, I understand.
Kind of, but it's definitely interesting to see that a certain type comes for a certain type of work. So for support, it's going to be a certain type, and for developer, it's going to be another type, primarily dominating. So whenever I have like different results, it piques my curiosity. It's like, oh, that's interesting. That's not a role that's usually a type that usually apply for this role. And so I spend a bit of time.
Okay, so here's the telling question. Do your current hires, do your current team members that you like, that do good work, right? I imagine that's all of them, but are the people that are left standing, doing good work, scoring on these psychological tests the way you'd think they would score?
I love all my team. It didn't always used to be the case, but the team we have now, I'm freaking loving them.
That's good, but I wonder how they scored.
No, they don't share the same psychological profile.
What? So why do we trust it? Why do we trust the results?
It's not necessarily about trusting the result. It's more about knowing where to poke.
Can you give me an example?
So for example, for the campaigner, which is a type in QuickMail, they basically have troubles to go through. They always need like personal validation, and they can burn themselves out very quickly and stuff like that. So you can always ask about like, in the past, can you give me an example of, something happened? And then you pay attention to that, and you do see if, this is confirmed, or if they actually manage to not be that strong in that sense on some of the weaknesses.
Okay, so if it reveals a weakness, probe them on it and maybe double check that area more intensely than...
Plus bear in mind that, a weakness in one role may actually be a strength in another one. So basically this is just, getting like... Plus the test is...
It sounds like this is for more advanced interviewers.
Yeah.
Okay. But fair enough. Definitely.
You don't have to do that. But the point of the test is it still takes like 15 minutes for people to do it. So again, they want my time. They're going to need to spend some time on it first.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they're bringing an investment already.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
100%.
Fair enough. Okay, cool. Is there anything else we need to do in order to make sure we, A, protect our time during this hiring process, and B, hire somebody who's awesome?
Yes, you need to do something, and you gave me the tip. There is a way of querying URLs in Google. Maybe you want to talk about this. The one I mentioned is like...
Yeah.
You gave me like a cool URL trick that enabled me to find out, really good candidates right away.
You're talking about Google search operators. So you can type all lowercase in URL, :
in title as well.
Yeah. You can use site : so if you want to Google a particular blog or website or Upwork, I'm just curious why you use it at this step. What are you searching for? And for those of you listening who want to take a deeper dive, there's, I think they're called Boolean operators. So search Google Boolean operators or search operators to find the whole list of hacky type searches you can query on Google.
Yes, you're right. So it used something like site:upwork.com because I'm searching in upwork.com. And the idea is I want to pull all the profile that got great feedback from past clients.
But why do you use it at this step?
Because at this step, maybe it's a step before, we forgot to mention it. But basically at this step, if I'm not happy with the quality of applicant that I have, then I'm going to ask for more applicants to come. And in fact, you don't have to wait for that. You can just go ahead and then do it anyway.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm laughing. This is like the inbound or outbound approach. The inbound approach is write a job spec and wait. The outbound approach is find the best and invite them, which is very much more my speed. And I can share a couple of, far less thought out ways that I've hired a couple of great people using this outboundy thing.
I think it's a fantastic tip here, Jack, to use that. And so you're using things like in title for whatever job spec you're looking at. So support, data entry, manager, whatever, right? And then you actually, look at in URL to have like hire or job or L, which are typically the path to personal profile of those users. And if you find for things like best I've ever worked with or is amazing, hands down, those sort of things, then you can then look at...
Yeah, those phrases.
Yes, phrases. Then you can look at whoever clients say things about certain, freelancer. This is amazing tip from you.
Thanks, dude. So if you're familiar with building prospect lists, and really I'm talking about account lists, you should be familiar with writing a particular filter for the kind of accounts that you put on your prospecting list. So we're actually doing this exact process. We're just essentially scraping Upwork for profiles that contain reviews that say things that match what we're looking for and that they are of the highest caliber. And you're left with about a dozen, maybe a little less, maybe a little more profiles.
Yeah, sometimes less.
And this is my whole stance. It's like I scrape Upwork thousands of profiles that have certain keywords, and then I'll run like a second round of filtering where it has to have certain phrases, and I'll be left with a spreadsheet with, I don't know, call it 20 profiles, and I'll just go through, and if I don't like their bio, I just manually remove them, and then I'm left with 10, and I invite all 10 to my job, and I'll hire 2 of them and see how it goes. And that's led me to have 4 awesome hires out of 8. So 50% success rate on that.
So scrap everything I said about inbound on Upwork and
no, it's cool. I mean, the thing is, though, I'm not hiring technical support, nor do I have this. Maybe there's a hybrid, Jeremy. Maybe just like you said, where you do a nice job spec, you add the secret word, you get candidates, only spend time with ones that match all the hurdles. And like you said, if you're not happy with the quality of candidates thus far, go do this outbound approach and still make them jump through all those hoops, right? That's
sure.
Yeah.
I definitely think you should do both, actually, and not just being content with just people who don't know your job.
Cool.
One thing I will do for is when we are doing this outbound approach, one thing I realize, people are gaming the system as usual. And basically you will find like 1 hour, they worked only 1 hour for this client, and the clients say like, best ever I ever worked with, and so on. It's just like amazingly cool after 1 hour, dudes. She or he must be really good. So basically I just, scrape them out because obviously they've been paying those reviews.
True. And you can also filter by minimum. Oh, this is getting really geeky here, but
nice.
You can say either scraping each profile in Upwork, if you're listening, I don't care, or you just go in Google and you can use an asterisk. So you put a number, asterisk number, and that tells Google to bring you results that have a range of that digit on the page. So you could say hours worked, quote, and then, and let's say 2 asterisk 2000. So you're pulling in profiles that have between 2 and 2,000 hours worked.
Nice.
It takes a lot of correcting to execute that search, but it's totally possible. But going back to the original thing you said, it was like, yeah, you could build a script that does the whole thing for spend 6 hours on it. But if it only takes 5 seconds to qualify manually, then come on.
Plus, not everyone can build a script anyway. So hopefully, some of our listeners will be able to benefit from both sides of that conversation.
Yeah, I think we had an episode on web scraping, and I encouraged everyone and still do to at least appreciate what computers can do for us outbounders. It's really cool. And I think everyone should learn some Python, but that's just me.
Or Ruby.
Yeah. All right.
Or Node.js, actually.
Yeah, even better. Okay, cool. So is there anything else on your notes that would help us hire a team member for outbound, Jeremy?
Yes, and this is something that is way too many times overlooked, but I think this is absolutely critical and crucial. Maybe not for the $5 job, right? Because honestly, you're going to have very little contact with them. But if you don't want your VA or support person, developer, whoever, manager, whoever you're actually hiring, you're going to want to make sure they share your values. And I know this is like fluffy Jeremy kind of thing and so on.
Fluffy culture stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, culture things. But honestly, this is super important because otherwise people will get under your skin instead of, they won't be able to ever shine with you in your company because they won't share the same value and that will annoy you and stuff like that. And basically that's not long term.
Yeah, sell me on why I should care more about culture than I do.
Okay.
If you can write great email personalization, shouldn't I just be happy with whatever your beliefs are?
Well, that's a great question. Should you? I guess that works if you're not planning on building a company and just having random people work in their own corner and not really trying to build a culture and grow beyond.
Isn't that what the remote workplace is? Just a a bunch of experts doing their thing?
That's a fair point. To my understanding is at some point they will need to communicate between each other, maybe to pass the data. Like let's say at the beginning you start with just one person that is just looking at the data, but someone else is actually scraping. The other one is, at some point you're going to want them to work together instead of coming back at you. Unless you want to be the centerpiece of the puzzle, you're going to have to make sure that they share some of your values.
I'm going to say kind of, because E-Myth says find the lowest quality person who can follow your SOP, who can follow your manual, your checklist to the letter, so that your checklist executes the task, not the individual.
Yeah.
So if you have this E-Myth mentality, you may be able to get away with more and more of this person over there doing said checklists and the business operates. That doesn't work when you're hiring a CMO. That doesn't work when you're hiring a strategy, marketing. I don't know, like if it's really high level, forget it. But for the mid to lower tasks, I'm kind of thinking you can get by well on a very good process as opposed to a very good team.
Yes, there's chances. The thing that I see is, and maybe bear in mind this may be actually a bigger discussion and maybe we shouldn't spend so much time here.
Sure.
But I'm thinking at some point your process is going to have to change. So unless you're actually spending all your time looking at the process, then it will be nice to have some of your people be able to adapt and change the process when needs it.
Okay, and I'll have one final comment because this is our show and we can do whatever the hell we want to do.
That's right.
I have a friend who tells me they intentionally hire what he calls people who are not smart, because a smart person can take a manual he writes and make it work. If they run into a loophole or an edge case, they can still make it work. But he says, I want to find people who will break if my manual is not perfect so that I can perfect the manual.
So the McDonald's.
Right.
Yeah.
And it works for him, and it works outstanding. And I didn't know this, but he says his team members love the manual and love working with him because they know exactly what's expected of them. They know exactly how they're going to kick ass, and they know exactly, okay, Monday morning, open the manual, start. And they just, I don't know, he says it works awesome. So different strokes, different folks. What can you do? I will say, to finish my aside, there is a big project of mine to be able to establish a team and pretty much use what you've just described to fill certain roles so that they're executed perfectly. But I'm not there yet. The Japanese have something called a daruma, and it's basically a toy you get that you set an intention, color out one eye, and then when it happens, you color out the other eye. So maybe it's time for me to get my daruma and color out the one eye that's established a team for all this stuff. But it just feels like I'm a little bit closer there after this discussion.
Yeah, so maybe by October you'll be there. And if you're in Japan like I will, hopefully, if this whole pandemic stuff.
Yeah, I hope.
Then I'll buy you a daruma.
Thanks, dude. By the time this thing airs, it'll probably be November or something. So it won't make sense. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So,
all right.
Any other notes for us?
So, if you do have a clear vision of your culture and you do want them to actually fit your culture because you want them to grow within your company and then you want them to stick around for a long time, I'm using something called the interview question framework, which I borrowed from managertools.com, which is an amazing podcast when it comes to management. And basically, they have a 3-part question. You don't ask them about their experience and what they've done, but you actually ask them behavioral question. Tell me an example when you did X. And so then you take this to actually, you keep digging on what they're actually saying to figure out if they demonstrate some of the core value that you have. So for example, an example will be, at QuickMail, we're always searching to understand deeper everything we touched. So we have a good understanding of everything that works. That's part 1. You just explain what happened at your company. You just highlight that. Then the second one is asking a question. So tell me about a time when you, or describe a situation where you, or walk me through an experience where you. And then part 3 is basically restate the question. So in this case, I'll be like, at QuickMail, we really need to deeply understand everything we touched. Tell me an example, Jack, when you had to really deeply understand something. And basically, Jack will need to figure out a good example to demonstrate that. And for me, if it doesn't demonstrate it, it's not hireable. Is that a word? Hireable?
It might be. If it's not, let's add it.
So yeah, if he passed, then that means he demonstrated the core value and he's a good candidate. And if not, then I think I'll have to stop the interview there.
Okay, so if you screw up a question, that's it.
Basically, yes, because we got 5 big core values. If you don't leave those ones, you're gonna get under my skin, and you're not going to be able to shine at QuickMail.
Got it. Right. Interesting.
Right? You will shine somewhere else, that's for sure. But at QuickMail, you're gonna have.
That's not for sure.
One example.
Let's make that clear. It's not for sure.
Well, that's true. That's true. But one example, for example, is we have candor as our third value, and candor is like we value honest feedback and constructive feedback over social harmony. If you're a socializer and you can't really get past, telling the truth to someone, you can have a hard time because, we give each other feedback, truthful, feedback constantly. So you're going to have a hard time.
So no Americans on your team then?
They are not all like that, Jack.
I know. We like our praise here, but what can I say? So do I. Anyways.
All right. I think that's it.
That's
really.
it.
I think at this stage, so once you got this interview with them, technically I put it 20 minutes, but depending on the role, you may want to spend more time.
Yeah.
I recommend a good hour if you really want to dig deep on, a very important role for your organization. 20 minutes is definitely the minimum you can spend for those type of questions.
So I've got a couple thoughts to leave you with, dear listener of ours. Eventually, maybe very quickly, if you follow Jeremy's advice, you will find an awesome team member. My advice to you is to flat out ask them what they're looking for as an employer from you, because it always shocks me when I ask somebody, how would this be a great working relationship with you? What are you looking for me to do for you? And they'll tell me things that I would never in my wildest fantasies want from an employer. I mean, I'm so far removed from certain people that I bring on that I'm so glad I asked this question, because I had no idea that was important to these certain team members of mine. And only because I asked, I feel like I'm able to do my part as an employer to help them have a lot of fun and success working with me so that they stick around. I mean, it's not easy to find good people. So I'm saying this because you want to communicate clearly so that they stay with you for the long haul, because the less time you need to spend hiring, even if you work this process, which is going to save a ton of time, it's still more time that you can refine things and work on more value add parts of your business. So communicate with your new people when they're great and reward them and talk and do all that stuff you should do as a good boss.
Well said.
Thank you. Okay, but that's about it. Jeremy, thank you for schooling us on how to hire people on Upwork to do, hopefully, some meaningful work for everyone who's listening.
All right. Awesome. My pleasure. You bet.
See ya.
Bye.
By now, you should be fired up to hire your next team member. So here's a quick recap to help you hire well and spend less time interviewing. First, write a job spec and insert a challenge to filter out everyone who didn't take the time to read it carefully. Then ask follow-up questions to make sure somebody is worthy of an interview. Optionally, you can ask them to fill out a long survey or a typing test so that there's a commitment from them first before you sit down with them. Third, reach out to top candidates using our outbound method if you're not pleased with the volume and or quality of candidates that have found your job posting. You can try out the Google search operators to narrow down Upwork's massive list of candidates before you reach out and invite them to your job posting. And finally, when you do find that excellent team member, ask them what they're looking for from you so that you know what's important to them and how to keep those all-star players at your company longer and happier. Hey, cold emailer.
Yeah, you.
If you got some value from this episode, give us a high vibe by sharing a 2-sentence review on iTunes.
Or Stitcher, or TuneIn. That works too.
It's a quick way to help other growth-minded folks like us find this podcast
so they can send awesome emails
and make everyone's inbox a better place. Thanks.